Welcome to the Illuminate Universe podcast, The Cast. Get it? The Cast? My name is Alina, and I'm the founder of Illuminate, where we mentor job seekers and help employers to fast track their business goals. I interview a celebrity cast of incredible individuals who have truly inspiring careers. We're talking about their work journey, the process of taking the leap to create a life and career they love, and what happens when they push aside their fears and doubts to unleash their fullest potential. Today, we speak with George Yang, who is a director and investor for multiple companies in industries such as oil and gas, commercial and industrial properties, and the import and export of mineral commodities. He is also the Chief Commercial Officer for Poplar Homes, a tech-enabled property management company providing streamlined renting process for owners and renters to live easy. Poplar has raised over 53 million USD recently in Series B. Hi, George. Thank you so much for coming onto the show today. It is such an honor to have you here. So, George, I love our conversations, and I find them insightful, energizing, and just full of wisdom. So I've always wondered, who and what inspired you to think big? Have you always been like this as a child?
Yeah, so I think growing up, obviously my dad has been a big inspiration and someone that get inspired by. He was from a village. He didn't really have much growing up. And, he was able to get to where he is now today through his sheer determination and hard work. I've always also had this thing in my mind where I never question why, I just do why not, right? For me, this is very important thing. I realized that growing up, as more I entered the adult world more, there's a lot of feeling that people just are happy with the status quo, find it very troublesome to really just make a change or, figure out the problem, the kinks and things like that. That sort of thing. I've always been like that growing up as a child. I would always be curious about little things like that. Hey, I want to check out how does this work? Why is this set up this way rather than the other way, for example? Why is the canteen and the food cafeteria operating in sort of way? So these are the things that, make me think and see whether I could improve on that. And then the exposures I got through my educational years made me think that also there's so many problems in the world that we can help fix. And I want to be one of those guys driving some of these changes.
So tell me more about your dad being a role model.
Yeah, so he's 65 this year. So we have a 36-year apart. And to this day, he gets up at 6 a.m. and doesn't sleep till midnight. You have someone like that in your life, so you're inspired to be like him. And obviously, I can't do that. My life schedule and everything makes it a bit more difficult for me to do that. But I try to emulate and be more like him as much as I can. From a young age, taught me hard work. He would still groan the fact that I got up late, even though that I might spend 4 or 5 more hours later at night to do stuff. But for him, I think it helps drive me, and that's why I'm able to utilize my time as much as I can. And I've seen him for 2 years recently because of the COVID situation, and I saw him for a few months, and he's still not changed. Still the same kind of guy, working hard. It's interesting because in China, you travel a lot for work. Our base city are not where a lot of business transactions are done. So he would take a car and be on the highway for an hour or two every day, maybe 4 or 5 at times. I question why he does these day trips, but again, I also get it because there's still other things for him to take care of and do at home. So it's interesting, but that's sort of the way he is, and I think that really shaped a big part of who I am.
2 qualities that I heard are grit and discipline. And it sounds like those 2 qualities are some of the qualities that the most successful individuals in this world have, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, your dad, and yourself as well, I'm assuming.
Hopefully.
I'm going to go into my second question for you. So, George, you're a director for multiple companies in industries such as oil and gas, commercial and industrial properties, and import and export of mineral commodities. You're also the Chief Commercial Officer for Poplar Homes. How did you get to where you are today? What are the most important skills and attributes that have served you well in your career and leadership development?
Having a very hard-working father really does help. But opportunities aren't really given to you. There's no way, no matter how well set up you are, you have to seize the day. As cliche as it is, carpe diem, you really need to seize the day. I've always been also a hard worker, maybe a little bit because of him. So, my first taste of the business world really came about when I was in middle school, having to go on these dinners with my dad and the family, to achieve sort of goal, made me interested in about the world and how things work. I think being in business, you really need to know how things work. And, we're going to be curious about that. Very focused in, this is the goal I want to do. So I made a decision in middle school to do that. When I was in middle school, I was actually in Hong Kong, but I was going back to the Australian system because I came back from Australia, but I didn't want that. So, I went to American boarding school. Now, throughout my middle school, high school, I never missed a day for homework. So I made sure every day, even the routine, mundane tasks that you're supposed to do, I got them done. Because that became, again, discipline habit. I never missed homework. Actually, one of my high school teachers to this day, he's in the same social clubs I am now. He would always remember that one thing where I was in his class and I got a national recognized award for geography or history. I don't remember because it's a long time ago. He still remembers to this day, and I don't remember. I think just repetition of these tasks, grit and hard work, knowing that these are done, because ultimately the person that benefits from these things are you. You would be able to benefit from the knowledge that you get. Everything might seem so irrelevant at that moment, but who knows what that sort of information would be important to you in the future. So that's sort of how I see these homework and things. I'm very focused on that point. So then I was able to go to America for boarding school because I wanted the best education possible for myself. And at the point when, the last 2 years of my high school, I realized I needed to make this change because Australian education were not serving, no discredit to what they're doing in the higher education system there, but mainly because I knew that in order to get the best quality education, I need to go where the teachers are getting paid the best salary because that's one of the attributes that could get the best talents. So I decided, I'm going to try to go that. I've always had a dream to go to an Ivy League. I'm probably not the smartest, so couldn't get there. Not there yet, I'll say that. I was able to go to a very good university But throughout my time in boarding school, I was very focused. I was very focused in knowing that what I want. And I think that's sort of the key is to not get also distracted by distractions. There will be a lot of distractions in life, but knowing exactly what you want and to get there. In every stage of your life, you have different goals and you need to focus in getting to the goal that you need to do. I told myself I'm getting to a very good business school, in high school, in boarding school. I would sometimes even read textbooks on Saturday nights just to get ahead. Now, granted, I was in a boarding school, so Saturday nights are not the funnest and we've got curfew. So that is one of the reasons why, maybe because there's nothing to do on a Saturday night. There's less distraction that way. But eventually I was able to get there into a very good business school. I went to Boston College, and the business school is one of the best ones available in the States. Before, the materials were challenging me. And now when I'm in university, my peers and obviously professors are challenging me. So, I'm a firm believer in the higher education system and how you can grow yourself tremendously through that. Not only that, you can also grow a lot of networks and connections that, you don't think is important now, but it can be beneficial in the future. I'm a firm believer that this is what a higher education needs to do. So if you're listening and you're young, your journey starts very young. It's a constant battle. If you want to be able to provide for your loved ones like that, the best way you can do that is to start at a young age and get ahead that way. Now, this is one thing that's very interesting, right? Why I keep on bringing this hard work and grit sort of mentality. In college, I had the privilege to read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. The book talked about 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours to get good at something. And we only have that many hours. For us, 10,000 hours can be easily spent also doing nothing. So if you decided to just hang out and chill, eventually you'll be very good at chilling. and then you won't be able to get ahead and do the things that you want to. It's because inherently you've wasted all those time being good at something that has no value. So, that's something, I urge you to not read the book, to read it. It's very, very, very informative and very interesting. So then I came back to Hong Kong after university, been thrown into the thick. I always knew my time that I'm going to help my family in terms of the family business. That said, you still have to perform and you still have to showcase your ability in different avenues and things that you're good at. I graduated undergraduate with a finance information system background degree. So I was able to help with a lot of financial controlling aspect of business. Now, in terms of business, it's a lot of moving pieces and fragmentations. There's only so many hours in one's life. So a lot of times you need to learn how to work as a team. So teamwork is actually one of the very most important thing you need to do, I guess, in terms of business world, a career, or even just being a leader, is knowing that you can't micromanage everything and that you need trusted people around to do the tasks they do. Like I just mentioned, I was doing a lot of financial controlling, making sure and talking to our debtors, talking to suppliers about payables, structuring those things. Those are what I was doing mainly at the start. So these things, I'm only doing one segment of it, and the other stuff I trust on my sales manager to keep on selling our products. I trust the admin staff to be doing the admin job. So there's a lot of these sort of moving pieces. So learning how to work as a part of a bigger organism is actually key to being a successful leader as well as advancing in your career. From then on, I was able to then save a bit of money and start doing some investings on my own. One thing led to another, led to opportunities. I did a fast food chain here. Now someone else is running it. I got involved in a football school, things that I like to do, as well as obviously Poplar is an interesting opportunity there. Still a high level strategy, thinking. Again, being able to go out there and talk to people and knowing that just trying to be helpful, right? If you're trying and you have part of go on that, people will see it and you'll be able to do things you don't imagine. Serving well in my career is to be able to listen, work as a part of a team. I think I got that from loving football, my own one and only hobby. So that taught me a lot of teamwork. And I urge, people to really, when they have time, don't spend time playing PlayStation. Go out there and do extracurricular, because you can develop a lot of transferable soft skills and leading to success in the workplace or in an entrepreneurial setting, which I was able to do. And don't be afraid to try, right? There's no failures in life. I think failures really is just a learning experience at the end of the day. I know this is also something people say a lot, but from my personal experience, it's true. I could delve into a couple of examples here in terms of that. The whole things that didn't work out well for me was the fast food chain. I had a couple of partners, and the partners was great. We got along very well. But then there's friction among the other two. I was caught in the middle, right? And then they start not giving rat's ass about what's going on. They didn't really care about the business, and it's going. I had to find solutions, get out of it, right? But I learned a lot of valuable lessons. Originally, I wasn't thinking I was gonna be involved as much as I was, but then I was, and then I was able to build meaningful connections that I still have in the food and beverage segment, knowing how things work in that, how suppliers are dealing with business and how those relationships are. And on top of that, just had a good time and learned a lot. Although right now someone else is running it, I still have a stake in it. So it's interesting for me. Now, with another thing, I realized people, you might not find. Another bad example was bad partners. My partner, who I thought was not doing the right thing, so I decided to quit. He wasn't doing his job. So decided to get out of there. I learned a lot about what I like and what I don't like, and about different industries, and that is very important. It's the lessons we learn, because at the end of the day, it's the experiences that you can take away. Can't take away money. In terms of going back to the question, Alina, about skills, I think grit, teamwork are very important to me, and I think in general also I don't hold any animosity to bad partners and stuff, because everyone comes from a different angle and perspective. To be understanding about where everyone is and what people are feeling, that's also very important. So I'd say that to be a good leader, you really need to be understanding and also be in the trenches with them at times.
Okay, George, I want to go back. Something you said that was very interesting was you said it's important for individuals to know what they want. And I feel like that's a very big question for a lot of people. It's an important and hard question. How do you know what you want?
I guess that's very interesting. I think I set a 3, 5, 10-year path for where I want to be. And I it's interesting. I see this. I have an overarching sort of strategy about where I want to be and what I want to do, right? And I work slowly towards it. It might not be a straight line. It'll be a lot of curves. I might go one way, bounce the other way. But knowing, you must have a place you want to be in life. Let's say, obviously, I think Alina and I had a conversation about this before. I want to retire in 5 years, right? So that is the goal. So I'm doing everything I can to get there, right? So I think, knowing that is my overarching goal, then just figure out ways that can get me towards that goal. And that's how I sort of see how that is and how that works. And I know it's knowing what you want, but there is inherently something, it's a blanket statement. Everyone wants to retire early, or maybe different. We want a successful career in investment banking. I want a successful career in consulting. I want people to value the work that I've done, right? Knowing that blanket statement and work towards that blanket statement. That's sort of how I see it, how it is. There's no right or wrong path towards your version of success. That success is ultimately determined by you. It's up to you to determine that bar, how high or how low, right? So I think it's very tailor-made to an individual and where they want to be.
That's interesting. You mentioned your dad as a role model. A big part of knowing what we want is from a source of inspiration. From a personal perspective, when I have friends like yourself who are so ambitious, who know what they want, who've just experienced so many different aspects of life at such a young age, it inspires me to also think bigger, to dream bigger, and to set my standards higher. So that's wonderful. Now, leading into my last question for you, we're in a particularly interesting time. The world has changed tremendously from the way we work to the way we conduct business. What tips and advice do you have for someone who aspires to land their dream job?
With that, it has been an interesting 3 years, to say the least. I think, Alina, you're having a great time now in Canada. It's a lot different. Things are sort of normal. So I'm in Hong Kong right now. So I think we are getting towards that. I think the main thing is really to get out there. To get out there, to have conversations, right? Don't be afraid to LinkedIn cold outreach. Don't be afraid of rejections in general. You might reach out to 100 people. You might get 2 responses, 1 response. But that 1 response might be important. Who maybe set you up in the right place, And also always use warm introductions. To ask your friends, hey, do you know anybody in XYZ fields, right? A warm introduction will lead a long way. Those are the ones that really would open up doors beyond your imaginations. So also, but before you do that, equip yourself with the knowledge that you want to be. Let's say if you want to be in management consulting, you want to know what it's about, right? You want to be able to have those first. So that's very key as well before you start. It is a tough time right now globally, but if you can't land your dream job at the first go, you can figure out ways in parallels, right? Things that are sort of similar to the function of the job where it can get you in touch with people in that job. For example, I've got a friend, he's been in compliance for 4 or 5 years before he transitioned into a frontline job where he wants to be. So don't be afraid to take the curveball route. I've known a lot of people that, do things that not necessarily is what they want, but end up being in the position they want. So don't feel like someone's taking advantage of you. Give first. If you don't give, you don't receive. That is really, a very, very important thing for me to think. And a missed role always means the ability to commit to another. So something you might not land a job doesn't mean that doors permanently shut, but this also means another job opportunity. It's at your doorsteps that you can take. Because once you commit to something, you commit fully, and you need to give it your. That's sort of what I think for the advice I have to people, who want to land a dream job. There is never a failure to get to where you want to be. So be patient. This is something that you want to do. Just focus and be patient about it. You will have the opportunity. But when you do have that opportunity, make sure you have the necessary knowledge and you equip for yourself and seize it. Just don't let it slip away because you weren't prepared for it. That's sort of the thing. And be okay with the unknown. Embrace the unknown. I wouldn't be where I am right now if I were able to get into investment banking after university. Now, I blame it on H-1B, not having the visa situation, but that might not be the case. I was told I was trying to get a full-time role. My friend vouched for me because he interned there the year before and all that stuff. But apparently, there's a few things they didn't like about me. So I didn't get the job. Regardless, But that door closed. It doesn't mean I didn't retain all the knowledge that I've gained from preparing myself to try to be in that space. I use those knowledge that I've gained, skills that other people might not have, perspectives that people might not have, and utilize that for something else. Just because I've experienced it, I've seen things. And that is the key, right? To go out there, to explore, to see, to have conversations, to learn. The learning doesn't stop. The learning doesn't stop when you're out of school. The learning is a consistent thing. Go up to Vice News on YouTube instead of watching memes all day. That could be an interesting way to learn a thing or two about very interesting things that I have no knowledge about until I turn it on for 20 minutes, learning about how Latin America trafficking rings for drugs works and how that affects people, stuff like that. Interesting things makes you more interesting and you know more things. So these are probably my tips and advice that I have for someone who really wants to land a dream job.
I love this, George. I love it. I think a lot of people think the world in black and white, give and take. I give you this, you give me this, right? But I honestly don't think that's how the world works. I think there are many kind and generous individuals. And sometimes, a lot of young people are thinking, well, if I reach out to this managing director at a firm for a coffee chat, what do I have to offer? But the truth is, when that managing director was once young, he or she was in the same shoes as you, and someone gave him or her that opportunity, right? The knowledge check, the opportunity to meet, to converse. And so from my perspective, I always encourage young people to shoot your shot. Like if you reach out to 100 people, if one person comes back to you and gives you that opportunity to chat, take that opportunity and don't feel bad about it. Because one day when you become successful, then it's your opportunity to give back.
Exactly. And I want to further on that point, because, you showed a very common chord on my end as well. Growing up listening to my dad and his stories, this is actually very interesting to see, as someone who's from the village who did a lot of commodity trading back in the day in the 90s. Great time for commodity trading. I'm sad that I don't live in that era because it's a very interesting time then. He was able to get to where he is now because some Japanese guy, boss of a big trading company, took a meeting and he liked my dad. That is the reason why he was able to get, I don't know how familiar the audience will be. So credit line is basically how trade business are done. You don't really physically exchange money. A company would give a guarantee basically to this a supplier that, they're going to pay this payment through a bank. It's a very old form of trading that is done, which is now getting phased out. But basically the boss liked my dad. He's like, you know what, you can have the credit line to do this trade, do this transaction. And then my dad from that point on be able to build his asset wealth and become successful in his own rights. So, it's very true. You just don't think someone else is out there. People are generous. People are generous. Don't tell them to go against their way that doesn't align their interests with yours to help you. That's not going to happen. But if it's within the power of control, one would tend to be willing to help, given the fact that if they do see that, you are of good nature and that ultimately you're trying to help, you're not going to spend the money unwisely on random stuff. You're using it and you want to better yourself. That's very key. So I fully, resonate with what you just said, Lena.
I love it. And I think there's another cheesy quote. I am full of cheesy quotes. So when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right?
Correct.
I think it's this grit, this kind of, I'm going to maybe not prove others wrong, but I'm going to prove myself wrong that no, I am not going to let my circumstances change my values or change my perspectives so that I become so negative and I don't even want to become a better version of myself. I never thought that Illuminate would become what it is one day at all. It's insane because I think growing Illuminate every single year for the past almost 10 years, it has all come from a place of setback. So when I was in first year, I was 18 and I was like, boy, crazy. And I had my first boyfriend. So what happened was I failed a class called leadership because I was busy dating, having the time of my life, not attending class. And then I failed a course on leadership. How can you fail a course on leadership? Right? Like how? And the teacher just hated me so much that she gave me a 49.4. And I was like, oh my goodness, are you serious? If you give me a 49.5, that rounds up to 50 and I would pass and then I could go to business school. And so because of that, instance, I didn't get into business school. I stayed in my classical studies. For those of you who don't know what classical studies is, it's Greek mythology, history, statues. And so I had a ton of time throughout university to play junior varsity, to travel North America for hackathons and meet incredible peers who inspired me to build Illuminate and bring it to the next level. So without me failing leadership and being distracted by my first boyfriend, I wouldn't have had the time to do Illuminate. And then the second instance was I was working for Deloitte, and I am a walking billboard for Deloitte. I love Deloitte. So grateful for all my mentors at Deloitte, and they're still one of our national partners to this state. But I really didn't think consulting was for me because I was doing PowerPoints all day. And unfortunately, I'm just all about big picture thinking. And so that job was a little bit hard for me, but regardless, I really did try my best. So when I left Deloitte in 2020, I think it was June, I was so devastated. I was so devastated because I no longer had my brilliant and smart peers to be around. I was alone. I was stuck with, Illuminate that really didn't make any money at all. It was just enough for me to maybe buy a junior chicken and some iced coffee. And then what happened was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to China. I'm going to have my last hurrah before I put my head down and go back to the corporate world. And then in China, I decided to apply for this government program that Illuminate's a part of now. And it gave me the inspiration and the time to think and put together a really beautiful application that ultimately saved Illuminate and also saved me, saved my career. So I really would echo what you said, George, is to be patient and really build upon yourself while you're at it, believe in yourself. And when the opportunity comes, you'll be ready to take that to the next level.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I heard half the story when we met in China. So, in case people don't know, we met in China. And, yeah, it's a very interesting meeting. But again, like that, we also, made an investment in Poplar Homes, which I'm also part of some of the high-level strategy there. We've run into different roadblocks throughout the times, right? Even if you have gotten what you think you have, you still have to grit and constantly work towards a goal. That is crazy thing to think. You've gone back to corporate world instead of, where Illuminate is now, where it is.
Well, it is where it is. Also because of the advice and wonderful wisdom that you've shared with me. So credits to you as well, and to everyone who has helped to build Illuminate. I'm very grateful. So George, this brings us to the end of our podcast. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.